Pod Populi, podcast for the people.
I'm running on nothing but faith. There's things far too great that I want to accomplish. I'm hoping 25 hours a day, but something good works out, and I'm just like, dang. Think everything's gonna be okay. Yeah, I'm like, dang. Think you might just know the way. I'm like, dang.
Welcome to Dang.
Dang! What a wonderful month. Can you believe this is the greatest year? Eagles win the Super Bowl this year. My life is just complete for at least a year. But do you ever catch yourself having a full-blown argument inside your own head? Yep, me too.
Today we're going to talk about thinking and how we can stop being our own worst enemy by doing some work on our minds so that they can help us.
Yeah, stop thinking so much. And
I don't
just
know about thinking so much, but I think being more deliberate about how we see our thoughts.
Well, I think that sometimes people are thinking so much they're not solving what they should. Like you're overthinking things, and I think that's the biggest problem with people. We overthink some things that are we can simplify it without overthinking it.
Well, yeah, and I also think that we don't realize that we get to control our thoughts, our minds, right? That
Bruce Lee said that. He said, whatever you speak, it will come to existence. And he said you have to be careful of what you speak when you speak negatively to yourself.
And I think sometimes we feel, especially, kind of thought and emotion relationship, I think sometimes we feel like how we feel about something is like permanent, that we have no influence over that it's just like, hey, this is how I feel. And it's totally not true. The thoughts that you're thinking in your mind generate those feelings, those emotions. And so if you don't like the way that you're feeling, if you don't want to have a certain emotion, you do get to have control over that by what you choose to do with your thoughts.
Yeah, I used to, when I was first sober, I used to go into these meetings and think, and everyone's looking at me, and I used to think everyone is talking bad about me. Look at them. Yeah. And I used to get so angry in there, and I used to be so mad at them, because they're talking bad about me. And my psychiatrist was like, man, ain't nobody thinking about you. They're thinking about their own problems, man.
Absolutely.
And it made me really come to the realization that, yeah, wait a minute. Why am I thinking? But see, it's because I was thinking that about myself.
Right.
They weren't. I was.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking that about myself. I realized that I thought they were thinking that about myself. That's the thing. Like people, sometimes somebody walks by and has just a bad expression on their face, and they may look at you, and you think, "Oh my God, what a jerk!" He's, and he's like, that dude's got so many own problems in his own head that he's thinking about. It's not you. Just let it go and move on.
Yeah, that's what I've been telling Rocky that about. So there's a kid at football that was giving him a bad time, and I was just like, you know what? When you walk into practice, just realize that if that kid's giving you a bad time, it's because something is wrong for him. Like he is having a hard time in his own mind.
Bam, you hit him hard, you tackle him hard, and then he'll start.
But he's because of this trouble he's had with this kid over the course of the last season, he is intimidated to go to practice. Well, and he feels like he's going to walk in there and everybody's thinking, I'm like, first of all, even if it's just this one kid, like the likelihood, just like what your therapist was just telling you, none of those kids are thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves.
Not just telling me this. Was 31 years ago.
What's that?
This was 31 years ago. I don't think that at all anymore.
Yeah.
And I really don't care what people think
about
me.
But it was powerful to learn that.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It was very, because I didn't understand. See, when I first got sober, I didn't know my own emotions. That's why I fight for my own emotions, because when I know what I'm feeling or thinking, I won't let anybody determine because I know that it's real. But I think that the problem sometimes is we allow people to dictate how we feel, like by their moods or by and that's another thing that people have to learn is don't let someone else dictate how you feel. Yeah. You know what I mean? If they're upset about something, that's on them. Don't let it travel to you.
Well, kind of tracking it back to thoughts, because I definitely think it's connected there, is that people will offer you thoughts. Like, I want us to think about thoughts as like a commodity, like a package, right? Somebody's going to hand you this package, right? A thought, and say, here, this is a thought. They might say, oh, wow, look at that person, her hair looks crazy. Okay, is that true or not? Is that girl's hair crazy? That's totally subjective, right?
That's true.
It is true only in the sense of if you're going to believe that thought. So they're offering you this thought, and we get to take those thoughts and decide if we are going to hold them as truth also.
Yes.
And even it doesn't have to be somebody else suggests a thought to you. If a thought comes into your mind, you get to decide if you believe that thought is true.
Yes.
And based on what you decide, by keeping that thought in your mind, you will generate certain emotions.
Yes.
And sometimes if I'm feeling bad, right? If I am struggling, I will do an exercise. It wasn't like I just came up with this on my own. I was coached into this by podcasts I listen to, by therapists. But basically the steps that I take is I go to my thoughts. So if I'm feeling bad, where to look is your thoughts. And think, what am I thinking? What is the thought that I'm thinking that is making me feel bad? And a lot of times, one of the best tactics is to say that thought out loud.
Yes.
And say, is this true? And sometimes when we hear it out loud and our ears hear it, we're able to hear that it's not true. This is not.
But sometimes your thoughts will betray you also. That's the other thing about thoughts.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, what I mean by your thoughts will betray you is like like I said, you walk into a room, but your thoughts are saying, okay,
right.
Wow, why is everyone looking at me? So you have to know when your thoughts are actually genuine and when your thoughts are real.
Well,
you know,
but I don't even know if about genuine or real, because every thought that comes into your mind is a real thought you're having. It's whether or not you should trust that thought.
Yeah,
that's what you mean.
More what it is, whether you trust that thought. Yes.
And that's what I'm saying is sometimes you have to analyze it. You have to take it in and be like, you grab it. Like if it's an assembly line, your mind's an assembly line of thoughts going by. Sometimes, your quality control person needs to grab that thought off the assembly line and examine it and say, is this true? Especially if this thought is going to generate bad emotions, I can look at this thought and say, this is not true, right? Like if for example, with, going back to the football with Rocky, if he's sitting here thinking, all the kids, they don't think I'm cool, then he needs to pull that thought off the assembly line and say, is this true or not true? Am I cool or not cool? And just the analysis of that, hold on, let me finish.
Yes, go ahead.
Just the analysis of that thought will show that it's not even a true or false thing. That's totally subjective and it's silly. And as you analyze it, it's very easy to discard it.
Yes.
And you can replace it with a thought that's like, one of the thoughts I offered him, in my parenting with him, was, hey, well, could you believe a thought that says, you know what, everybody here probably feels a little bit insecure. Like that thought creates a different feeling for him than going in there feeling like everybody thinks I'm uncool.
Yes, but you have to get to the point to where you don't care what they think. That's the point you have to get to. I live my life now. I don't care what people think.
Right.
I'm going to do what I want to do. If they don't like it,
I know, but you're talking about like the trip from kindergarten to college,
I know that,
right?
But what I'm saying is you have to get to the point to where you start. Because see, if you start caring what people think, your life, because people will steer you in a direction that you may not want to go.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So it's like if the way you dress and someone doesn't like it, so what? You don't got to dress like me. You know what I mean?
Well,
you have to be secure with yourself.
Well, I think you're getting caught up in the example that I'm using, because the same method, the same strategy works for me still, right? I might have a thought come up. I'm trying to think of an example, and one's not coming to my mind immediately, but I might have a thought come up that is a trouble thought. It's causing me to feel a certain way, and I have to do the same thing. I pull it off the assembly line, and I examine it and say, what would be a better thought to replace this with? And it doesn't have to be about what other people are thinking about me. It could also just be, hey, if I'm feeling really discouraged about something, because I can feel discouraged about something without even caring about what other people are thinking. It's just me feeling discouraged. And if I feel like, oh, this is taking too long, I can't get what I want, right? Like if I'm feeling impatient, then flipping that thought to be something like, okay, this is what I'm trying to accomplish is a really big thing, and it's going to take some time. That creates more patience in me.
What we were taught in the program is you're not going to feel that way the next day.
Right.
That's the thing. So you know that it's going to change.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Have you seen the Austin Land movie? I bet you haven't, because it's totally a girl movie. No. But so it's I wish I could remember the name of the actress, but she's hilarious. She was in Legally Blonde too. She's the Bend and Snap girl with Reese Witherspoon from, did you see Legally Blonde?
Yeah, I did, but I don't remember any.
Anyway, she is hilarious, and she is in Austin Land, and says this one line. She's like, you know what? That's the thing about all the people in the world that kill themselves and then feel differently the next day. And I'm slaughtering the line, but it's hilarious. I'll have to go find the clip and show it to you.
Yes.
But it's so true. You do, you get through things.
Yes, and the next day you will feel completely different about how you feeling the day before that. And that's
what do you think creates that change the next day?
Well, for me, what I've learned is, what works for me, what I learned is that the next day is always going to be different. It's just like, if I can just get past those 24 hours, the next day is going to be totally different. And I know that because that's how I live my life. I don't live my life year per year or like that. I live it, it's every day, every single day. Things get different, things change, things get better. They may not get better, but they will always improve. And it all depends on how I view things.
Right, and how you're feeling and those thoughts and things like that. I think that when you sleep, you get this reset, right? Your mind gets cleared out and you can see
But some
things
people harp on it for days and days. That's how you get into depression, by harping on things for days and days.
Have you ever caught yourself believing something about yourself that was not true?
Yes.
What?
I was the Zodiac killer. No, I'm kidding.
You believed that about yourself, but it wasn't
I
true.
believed it. No. I think at one time, I believed that it was wrong to have anger, but it isn't if you place it properly.
Right.
Like, people are afraid, like, people say you shouldn't get angry. Yeah, you should get angry, but you have to place it properly. You can't take it out on someone else. You can't use your anger to thrust yourself forward, or, you can't use your anger to get people out of your way. You have to just sit with it and say, I'm angry, and that's okay.
Well, and anger is an indicator, right? Anger is like
Usually
a gauge that's telling you something.
It's usually a gauge between hurt, sad, or something like that. There's always a feeling connected to anger.
Yeah,
it doesn't
I feel
go
like
by itself.
For me, it's an indicator that somebody's crossing a line, right? If I'm feeling
But I
angry,
could be crossing a line with myself. And that's something that we have to watch out for also. Because if I'm crossing a line with something that I don't like what I'm doing, I may get angry at myself.
Yeah, you get frustrated
and
with
then
yourself.
I go to battle in my head with myself. But but then again, I know that it's okay to be angry with myself. Just don't do it again next time. That's what I've learned. Well, what common negative thought do you struggle with? How do you handle it?
So I think one of the things that I struggled with a lot was feeling like I was lazy. And I'm not lazy.
How'd you feel that?
I know.
Oh my God, as much stuff as you do?
Because I would get called upon or asked to do something, and I would want to say no. I would want to inside be like, I don't want to do that. I grudgingly would do it. And I would feel like this grudgingness that I was feeling was laziness. But it was really what I came to learn was that it was me telling myself, I don't have that in me to give right now, and I need to say no.
And that's what you have to learn to say is no.
But I was brought up kind of in this, and it wasn't intentional. It wasn't like my parents did this on purpose, but culturally, I just felt like you give, you serve, you do things for other people. And if I didn't want to do that, that must be because I was lazy.
Yeah, but I'm glad you shouldn't feel that way because, you give as much as you can give, but you have to learn to say no because people will just keep using you if you don't learn to say no.
Well, and it's a really bad thing because then inside I'm feeling like I'm a lazy, bad person. So that just makes me do what? Want to give more.
Yeah.
So then I'm further suppressing that.
Yeah, and you're getting tired and more tired and more tired, and then you get frustrated, then it lashes out.
And so I had to really come to, it wasn't that I was mean to myself, but I had to come to see that I understood it wrong, what was expected of me by God and by, society and what people had a right to expect of me. I had to reframe that and understand it better.
Yeah, see, I've learned...
So that I could feel better about myself.
Yes, I've learned that our program is a selfish program, and I'll tell you why. If I don't take care of myself first, how am I going to take care of you?
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? So for me to take well care of you, I got to take care of myself. I got to make sure I keep myself happy. I keep myself, in good standings so that when I'm taking care of you, there's no anger behind it. I'm just taking care of you because I love you and I want to do things for you.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? But if I'm discontent, unhappy, how can I take care of you? When I do things, it's going to be like, you're going to stomp around and do it for person says, you love me and you're doing this for me. So I had to make sure that I learned to really take care of myself before I could take care of anyone else.
See, and I think it took me till I was at least 30 to figure that out. And okay, but I have to tell you something about how, we were just talking about how as parents, we're going to screw the kids up one way or another. That it's like literally part of God's plan is that your parents are going to come here and screw you up. It's just a matter of how. Because, okay, I'll give you an example. This week I was after Rocky to get him to do something. And he turned to me and he said, Mom, you told me to care about myself first. And I don't want to do that. Or something like that, where he was just like, I'm number one and I don't want to do that. And you told me to care about myself more than anything. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went back and I said, if I wanted to make sure you knew that it was okay to care about yourself. That's what I've tried to teach you. Yeah. Because growing up, I felt like, serve, everybody else, doesn't matter about yourself. And so I was trying to correct that in the way that I parented you by saying, hey, it's important. We need to think about others and think about what they need, but we also have to care about ourselves. But it got twisted. And he was like, I'm number one. Yeah. And I say this, and I'm just like, please let me make it clear to you that, yes, it is important what you want and what you desire. And you need to think about that. But you still have to think about other people.
Yes.
And you still have to try to see it from their point of view when you're interacting with them and say, what would they want?
But also, you say you're 11 years old. And if I don't make me take this size 11 and a half and shove it up your butt, if you ain't listening to me, because here's the thing. You live in my house. See, I think kids have to know, as long as you're in my house and I'm paying for everything, it's like, and to me, it's.
It wasn't about me asking him to do something. It was related to a friend.
I'm just talking in conjunction. I'm saying a lot of times kids they don't realize that everything they own in the house belongs to their parents because their parents bought it. That's just how life is. And if you want your own stuff, move out. Go buy your own stuff. Get a job. Good luck with that. You'll be coming right back. I remember one time I told my mom, I'm leaving. She's like, all right, have a good time. Where are you going to sleep at?
I remember packing up my suitcase.
Yeah. And then when I got outside and I was like, where am I going to sleep at? You know what I mean? So, because she would definitely call everybody and say, don't let them stay there. You know what I mean? And then, or they'd be like, where's your mom at? Why are you talking about staying here? You ask your mom? You call your mom. No, so I turned around and I was like, okay, your mom is absolutely right. I ain't got nowhere to stay. This is, and I think that, unfortunately.
Did you ever pack a suitcase?
Yeah, I packed it. I hit the porch, and my mom was letting me go. Okay, I told you what she did to me when I wanted to go to a house party. And house parties are kind of dangerous back in those days.
I don't know what a house party is.
A party at someone's house.
Okay, you were making it sound like it was something.
It's a house party. Party at someone's house.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just joking with you, honey. But that's what a house party is.
Okay.
So I wanted to go.
I could have deduced
and
that.
my mom was like, no, they're very dangerous. You shouldn't be going to a house party. If
I have lots of house parties that are not dangerous.
That ain't the point. What I'm saying is, back in those days, it was going to be a big house party, somebody she didn't know that well.
So like a kegger?
It wasn't going to be a kegger. We didn't drink, but it would just be a lot of people, too many people.
Okay.
And
how old were you?
I was like 12.
Oh,
13.
Okay.
Yeah, 12.
Was there going to be parents?
No.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
So she goes, okay, fine. If you want to go so bad, she goes, you walk there and you walk home. I'm like, whatever. Yeah. Strolled to the party.
How far was it?
It was like maybe 6 blocks, 7 blocks away. So
okay.
I strolled to the party, right? Having a good time. But then it's time to go home. And I'm like, I'm hearing every noise outside. I'm hearing. I'm like, and I'm hearing, woo, woo. And I'm like, all the way home, I was frightened all the way home. She says, and I'm sure she was really scared, I'm sure. You know what I mean? She was like, I'm scared.
I would have been terrified.
But I got home, and she goes, so you going to go to another house party? I was like, not if you ain't driving me. Because I was hearing every scary movie I seen was coming to life, and it just wasn't real, but it was in my head. So learned my lesson that way.
You learned to
listen to your mama. Oh, yeah. You got to listen to your parents.
I don't know if any of my kids have packed up and left. I was terrified for that day because I remember me doing it, my siblings doing it. We pack up a bag. I don't think any of us got past the corner. We lived like near a busy street. We'd get out to that busy street and be like, all right, I guess I go home.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So,
but the point is that here I have been trying to be so mindful of what I teach them, but I still managed to get them screwed up, right?
Well, I don't think I don't think you managed to get it screwed up. I think they managed to screw up what you're telling them in their head because they're too young to really understand what it means, what you're telling them.
Yeah.
That's why I think sometimes it's easy to simplify things with kids. You have to simplify it with them because it's like they can't handle adult, like I love Piper. As much as she thinks she can handle adult conversations, she can't because she's just not there yet. You gotta be in that. You have to be, like Adelie's been on her own.
Well, she needs to get close. She's turning 18 real soon.
But doesn't matter. She won't learn until you're really on your own.
It's true.
You learn a lot. You learn a
you're-
lot when you're on your own. Like Adelie's been on her own for a little while now, and she's learning a lot in the world.
Yeah.
You know, so you learn a lot. You know, so she's gonna have to learn and keep herself safe at the same time.
And that's literally, I think, the whole situation with life is we come here, our parents screw us up, and then the rest of our life we're just figuring out how to get unscrewed up.
But I don't know if you say your parents screw you up.
I think it's part of the
believe
plan.
that. I don't believe that.
I don't think there's no perfect parents out there.
No, not a perfect parent,
And
but I
so-
believe that you give your kid the knowledge as much as you know.
Exactly.
And what they do with it is on them.
And every kid is going to arrive to adulthood with some sort of challenges. It's kind of like if you're thinking about pottery and shaping.
That's because we're not perfect.
Exactly.
Now, if
There's no
Jesus
perfect
Christ
parents.
was raising a kid,
Exactly.
it would be perfect.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a pottery is like a good analogy. If like you think about the wheel spinning and the potter is kind of like pressing, it's like it's going to shape one way or another.
Yeah.
So wherever you press,
I don't
you're
think
going to get
I don't think that we're intentionally screwing them up.
Oh, no.
But it's just that we have because as adults we have, I think, in our head our own little idiosyncrasies. You know what I mean? And sometimes they come out a little bit, and then they don't come out a little bit, and then they come out this way a little bit. It's like someone naming their cat the N-word. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And thank goodness that they have people in their lives that are minorities that they can look and say, okay, well that's not right. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you can screw kids up really bad. I think that it's important for us the thing that we need to most of all give to our to our kids, is the love they need.
Yeah.
And that heals everything.
Yeah.
As long as you know that, hey, you know something, no matter how much, sometimes I don't like what my parents did, but I know my mom loves me. I know my dad loves me. You know what I mean? I know they love me.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing.
I had a therapist that taught me that. She said, you need to teach. They need to know that you love them, and you need to teach them how to fix the problems.
Yes.
Once they're an adult.
Yes.
By modeling that, doing the work for yourself. To fix you, and guiding them, kind of like just towards like, hey, this is how I fixed myself. These are the tools I used, and I'm gonna share those with you. But then they got to go do the work. Right?
Yeah, that's like no matter, like everything my mom went through, it was like no matter what, I knew my mom really loved me. I knew she did. She was always there for me when I needed it, and even when I didn't want her help, she still was there to help me. That's love, and it's unconditional. It's just like I tell people sometimes, you ever seen that kid who's, killed like 30 people, but his mother said, that's my baby. You know what I mean? Because, no matter what, she knows he's a murderer, but she loves her son still.
Yeah.
Or her daughter, that's just how it works.
Heading back to thoughts a little bit, what do you think? Okay, so when we get in our heads, we talked about this kind of when we're talking about New Year's resolutions too, but what do you think is the difference between realistic, like self-reflection, and just beating yourself up?
Well, sometimes I notice that kids beat themselves up. I notice adults do too. I think you have to, for me, what works for me, I come to the conclusion, like if I do something stupid that I don't like, I come to the conclusion, well, that's not who I am. I made a mistake, and I have to forgive myself and move forward. The problem is some people have a hard time forgiving themselves. They have a tough time doing it. And it's like, forgive, and it's like I have to always view myself as Christ is going to view me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Christ he always forgive me, no matter what I've done in my life. Now, I may mess up my surroundings, but ultimately, I know Christ, and I have to forgive myself for what I've done to put myself in that situation. And trust me, I put myself in a lot of stupid situations when I was young. And that's like now, I keep myself out of those stupid situations, but sometimes you fall back to old stuff and you say, no, better not do that. Got to move forward.
Right. And I think going back to kind of just like whether or not you're beating yourself up or if you're honestly reflecting, I think it goes back to kind of like the tone, right, that you're taking with yourself. Yeah. People don't realize, okay, so like something I talk to my kids about a lot too is if somebody is real nasty and grumpy with me, like somebody at a store or something like that, we might walk away and be like, oh, that sales clerk, she was so rude, or and what I always say to them is said, you know what, I feel sorry for her because she must be hurting, right?
Oh yeah, going through bad, yeah.
The way that somebody is with you, the way they treat you, that is how they treat themselves.
Yeah.
The inside.
Well, yeah, that's why a bully generally is being bullied by someone else in his household.
Or
that usually makes him into. So then you have to feel bad for that bully because you're like, okay, if he's picking on me, someone's picking on this kid, making him feel bad for himself. So I feel bad for him.
And then
you pop him in the nose.
And he's hard on himself in their minds. Like if they're being grouchy and grumpy with you, in their own mind, they're feeling grouchy and grumpy, and they have to live with it. They're stuck with that.
I've learned that if I don't react to their grouchy and grumpiness, I feel better about myself. But sometimes it's, we're not perfect. Sometimes you lose it too. You say something stupid, and you're like, oh gosh, why'd I do that? I just think that it's important that we don't beat ourselves up, that we just say, okay, forgive ourselves like Christ would. Because God wants us to forgive ourselves. That's his ultimate goal. He wants us to do that. So.
Well, that can be a journey for somebody. If they're coming from a place where they feel really negative, there is a lot of work that has to be done to kind of shift that.
Yeah.
But I think the goal is that basically your mind, that's your full consciousness, right?
Okay,
that is how you're going. That lens is going to affect and impact how you see everything.
Yes.
Like it doesn't, like we've talked about before. Somebody could have all of their dreams laid out before them and have access to endless amounts of money, success, whatever. They still would be unhappy because they're seeing it all through that lens of their mind. And so, really, the sooner that we can do the work to be happy and comfortable in our own minds, to love ourselves and feel good up in here.
Yes.
The happier we will be.
Well,
that is the key to happiness.
What is that one Bible verse said? Who's ever a man to gain the whole world but to lose his soul?
In the process.
And that's the thing, is that sometimes people are willing to go to any length to get what they want, but you don't understand is that you have to live with that for the rest of your life.
You have to live with yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be there in that brain with that roommate.
It was like we were talking about that the other day. It's like, you got this giant mansion, and you did things to get there that you didn't like. Every time you turn that key in that giant mansion, that's going to come in your head.
Yeah.
I didn't get this the right way. I got it the wrong way. Oh, my gosh, And you can keep throwing it out of your head, but it's going to keep coming back in your head every single day. That's why it's better to do things the right way, so that therefore you don't feel when you go in your place, you're like, I really earned this. Then you feel great about yourself. It's like I've learned to surround myself with things that I like and things that are nice, and knowing that I earned it the right way, you know what I mean? Then you feel really good about yourself that, hey, it's like what used to get me was looking at my career and realizing how I almost torched it, you know what I mean? And I had to learn to come to acceptance that, hey, that was the past, that's not today.
Yeah.
Because that was, tough for me to deal with, knowing I should have this, I should have that, I should have this. I had to be okay in the moment. Yeah. That's what I had to learn to be. And now I'm okay in the moment. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I know that God has me exactly where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. And that made me much better about my life.
Yeah, that's kind of sometimes if I'm considering choices or thinking about things, or something I'll tell the kids too is just never do anything that is going to make you lay awake in bed at night and be like, why'd I do that? Never, always make the choice that's going to make you feel comfortable and good about yourself in those quiet moments. And even that's the key.
And even, that's the problem sometimes with people who do bad things, like killers and stuff. They can sleep with it. And that's really dangerous, but that can happen.
Like they're a psychopath.
Okay,
right?
Well, what role does spirituality play in shifting your mind?
I think that just like how you've talked about with Christ and God, it's in like what I was just saying about feeling okay with myself in the quiet moments. I'm measuring that against God. I'm like, if I know I'm good with God, if I know that He sees me and He's okay with where I'm at, the progress, we make incremental progress, and I think God is always asking for us to just be improving just a little bit, right? We don't just sit still with God. He wants us moving forward. But if I can sit there and know, okay, you know what? I don't have anything to be ashamed of in front of God, then I know I can feel good about myself.
Well, sometimes, though, God will move you out of the way. Okay, I've learned this. Sometimes God will move things out of your life to progress you. Yeah. Because self wanted it. You know, understand what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes you want something and you're like, I want that. And God's like, Todd,
not for you.
It's not for you. And I go, no, but come on, guy. He goes, all right, I'm going to give it to you, but it's going to turn out bad.
Yeah.
And you get it, and the guy goes, I gave you what you wanted. Now look what's happening now.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to say, oh my gosh, this was a mistake.
No, that's exactly right. Because I was thinking about how the people that we surround ourselves with
Yes.
have such an impact on our thinking.
That's why you
too.
have to surround yourself with positive people.
Yeah.
And successful people.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Well, and those people are offering you, we were talking about thoughts and being offered thoughts. I like to see it as that commodity, and the people around you are going to offer you thoughts.
Yes.
And you know, the quality of the thoughts that you're going to be thinking are based on who you're surrounding
That's
yourself
right.
with.
That's like, you know, like I can be friends with someone who steals, but I'll never go to I won't invite you to my house. I won't go to your house. You're never going to, when I see you in the street, I'm going to be cordial and be your friend. But if I know you steal, I ain't going to the store with you ever anywhere.
Right.
I would say, you know, is that your friend? Well, I know him. He's a friend, but he's not a friend. You know what I mean? Because I surround myself with good people that I know that when I go somewhere, they're going to do good, and we're all going to do good. We're not going to act stupid, and that, you know, we take care of ourselves.
So if your brain had a thoughts playlist, what is one track you would want to delete forever?
That's how my mind runs sometimes. No. If I can delete that play track, maybe I can slow down and stuff. No, I don't. I think it's. What is in my head? I had to learn for myself that the world is not fair. That's what I had to learn.
Oh my gosh, that was a big one for me too.
Yeah, and that was the toughest thing for me to get over most, is that no matter how good you are, no matter how well you do, that it's still the part of the world still won't see it that way.
Well, and I not only realizing that life isn't fair, but becoming okay with that.
Yes.
Getting to the point where
learning
you're
how to
okay. Because it's obvious that it's not fair.
Learning
right?
how to hurdle over it.
Yeah.
Learning how to keep going. It's like, I always think the best, like I remember watching these people that became so successful and so rich, and I've learned is they've had so many failed businesses, but they keep going and keep trying until that one hits. And that's a cause for things that people have to do. Realize that, okay, I may have failed over here, but I'm going to try this and try that. Because you never stop. You should never stop trying.
Yeah.
Keep pushing forward until you get the money you need, or you get the life you need. You know what I mean? But remember, if you do it the right way, you won't be upset when you get it. You know, you do it the wrong way, you're never going to have happy thoughts with that.
So going back to the fairness and like equality thing, when I was wrestling with that, probably about, 5 or 6 years ago, I was really struggling with fairness and wanting the sense, that sense of justice that sometimes doesn't come, actually often doesn't come, right?
Justice, go ahead, but I've learned you're just not seeing it. I've learned justice always comes. You're just not seeing it.
Well, here, so this may not make sense.
You have to not worry about it.
This may not make sense to a lot of people, but this was like the aha that I had. That God himself, he doesn't value fairness. That's not one of his values.
No.
Because it's not important. It's irrelevant in God's eyes. And this was kind of a progression. These thoughts all came to me over like an extended period of time, but it all kind of pieced together to say, you know what? If you look around, like especially religiously, what we believe, and I think a lot of people believe this, God loves us all. And he loves us all the same. He loves us all equally. He loves us all fiercely. Wait a second.
Go ahead. Yes.
And that's not fair. That idea isn't fair.
Why?
That he loves, because there's some people that do such totally terrible things, and he still loves them just as much as like Mother Teresa.
But
that's not fair.
But karma is real.
Well, hold on. So I had to realize that. I was like, okay, so God doesn't value fairness. He loves everyone equally, and that is not fair. But it's okay, because I want God to love me.
I get that.
Exactly how he loves me. Yeah. Like each one of us needs things that are very different from each other. And I believe that God knows us personally and cares about us individually, and he's individually delivering to us what we need, and whatever he's doing. And it's like the deals he's making and the things he's doing for everybody else on the planet, all of that's irrelevant because of this personal connection to God. That's what makes it okay for me, is that I know that he cares about me in a way that is perfect. And he's delivering to me exactly what I need. And I just can't see it all. And I trust him completely. And that was the key to becoming okay with life's infuriating unfairness.
I'll have to explain it to you from my point of view.
Okay.
I used to always think that revenge is mine. You know, the Lord said, revenge is mine, saith the Lord. But I used to always say, revenge is mine, saith Todd.
Right, which is terrible.
But hold on, because I was never seeing them get their karma back. But then when I just started realizing that it's not my job to pay them back, and I realized karma is real, and it comes back to everyone. You can run from it all you want, but eventually you're going to meet up with it. Whether it's you being crippled, you end up crippling yourself, or emotionally or mentally, it's like you can't go keep doing wrong and expect to live happy. That's not how life works.
Well, and I think
But I don't have to see it anymore.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I don't have to see you get paid back anymore because I know you're going to get paid back.
Well, and I feel like taking it just a little bit further is realizing I'm leaving that in the hands of God, because maybe they're not going to get paid back, so to speak, because they didn't really deserve it. Because there was something else that was in their life that brought them to the point of doing that to you that you didn't understand. And if you knew the whole story, you would. So it's like just basically seeing all of the rest of their journeys as irrelevant. It's irrelevant whether they get paid back or not. It doesn't have anything to do with
because because it's not our job to pay them back.
Right.
But I've learned that you do wrong, it's going to come back to you, and it's not my anymore responsibility to do it to you, so you can see how it feels. My responsibility is to say, walk away and go, good luck with that, and not be your friend anymore. Yeah. That's what I've learned. Yep. All right, so I guess that was a pretty good episode, wasn't it? Well, I think it was a great episode.
Dang.
So if you have any questions about this episode, write in. We can answer them back. Thank you so much for that. That was a dang. Thank you so much for watching Dang, and catch our next episode of Dang. We will see you soon. Ain't that right,
seeing
honey?
how many times you can say dang in
dang, 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 dang. This podcast is produced by my wife, Bettijo Bridges, in collaboration with Pop Populi, and edited by our daughter, Adelie Ann.
She is also the musician responsible for our theme music, so go check out Adelie Ann wherever you stream your music. Have a question or topic you want us to cover? Send us your suggestions at dangpodcast.com.
If you would do me a quick favor, please subscribe or rate our podcast to make it easier for others to find. Have a great week.
I'm running on nothing but faith. There's things far too great that I want to accomplish.